Ayo, Splatver. Oh yo. It's just quit, quit making that comparison, you underage teenager, jackass. You know, that would be the smart play for them to do something like that. Honestly, be the right thing to do. Hello, Falco, and your penguin with a sombrero on or something like that. Hello. Give us a quick update on the Friday Frenzy. Should I just do a weekly segment, where I just bring you on and let you talk for 5 minutes about what happened during the weekly Friday Frenzy thing? Ads? What ads? Capital One? I liked it better when I was sponsored by Snickers. I didn't remember. I want you guys to be getting credit cards. You don't need a credit card to like have a good credit score. I don't know why that is a why people think that's a thing. You don't. I've never owned a credit card in my life. I have a debit card, but it's more for so I can not have to write checks or anything like that. 220-411s and okay. So that seems about as even as you can make it there. Unless it's not. Good morning to Brush Strokes, Dub P, the Wiggly Phantoms. Hello, Swift. Hello, Tofu. I thought I was always since I am in fact a child. No. Don't assume. You never want to assume thing. Podcast. Luaucast. You're looking for the Luau Power Hour. That's what you're looking for. So let's get the guy that placed below me in League a week ago. Man. It's not an official episode of the Popcast unless we hate on Luau in some shape or form. You were a DT believer and so proud of us? Well, good. I was a believer too, and I am also proud of us. That makes us one and the same. Oh please, like that's an original idea, Sir Skit. Like, it's funny because I do a weekly live show where I talk about other people. Eventually, and I've already done this. Eventually, I'm just gonna say something that pisses off somebody else to where they make some sort of public like anti-pop gun statement about me, and it's gonna happen at some point. I mean, eventually I'll say something I probably should not have said or whatever. So yeah, Skit, if you wanna get ahead, if you wanna be progressive instead of reactive or whatever, proactive is what I'm thinking. If you want to be proactive instead of reactive, get ahead of the curve. Make the anti-pop gun Popcast now, before it becomes a meme. Cancel pop gun. Okay, there was a cancel pop gun moment when we posed for a drip pick with the C Boys because they DC'd, and afterwards Bunda started revving up his splatling looking directly at me, so I started revving up my splatling, and I was like, look, like, you gonna fire? Are we gonna do this? And I didn't wait, I shot first, but he revved up at me first. Okay, so I was in the right to kill him in that moment. It was the right thing to do. And none of my teammates stuck up for me when one of their other guys killed me. I was shocked by that. Thank you for the host, Stan TTV _. The anti-pop gun Popcast sponsored by the Wiggly Phantoms. Tofu, you were there. Oh, you're probably riding the tower. It's like you were in that lobby, or that you played that set. The stream was like cancel pop gun. It's like you're missing the context here. Greedo shot first. It is shot better. Looks like the baby. Who's the baby? Hello, Ginger Alice, Gingerosily. I'm assuming you're somebody who catches the Popcast on YouTube. Excuse me. Thank you for the host. That Smash. See, why can't you guys have more names like that? That is so easy and clear to read by anybody. But no, we got people who have names that are just smashing the keyboard and be like, well, let's go with that. Popcast weekly update. Do you guys get your news, your Splatoon news from the Popcast? That's probably not a good thing. Ginger, yes, I'd probably just go with Ginger, but still. Oh, but I can at least read Hoenn. I like the fact that you have capital letters, like there's no space between the two words you have, but you have capital H's to indicate this is one word and this is another word. They're just combined together because you can't put spaces in there. So BBC News. On this side of the pond, we have too many different news things to listen to. I did listen to a BBC radio broadcast once. I believe it was one of the I think it was Floyd Mayweather versus Manny Pacquiao fight from like 2010 or something like that. That I couldn't get anywhere in the U.S., but I could listen to a BBC radio broadcast of the fight. So I think that was the only time I've had that. Hiatus made 100 on his quiz that he took in like 2 minutes. Good morning, Evie. Evie, how often do you wake up and polish that silver medal we got in the SAC All-Star Tournament? I polish mine about twice a day. I don't want it to get too dull. Popgun reacts. I hate react channels. There's no effort put into those things. It's just easy. Easy views. Just watch something somebody else did and just go, oh, wow. I mean, I'm all for making free money, but I would think less of myself if I had a reaction channel. But see, even like live reactions to things like Splatoon 3, like I get people want like specific people's initial reaction to that, but even that seems like it's fake, you know, because they know they have to put on a performance. So if they see something cool, they know they have to like overreact to it because that's what the viewers want to see. So even that seems fake. And I'm not calling out specific people. I'm saying that about everybody who does anything in general to that. Okay. So there's a good example. The IPL one. You guys didn't know you were being recorded, so that's fair. But to people that are making natural reaction videos with their webcam on, like they know they need to make some sort of. They know they need to put on some sort of show because that's what the viewers want to see. It's exactly what I'm doing here, putting on a show for you guys, because this is what you want to see. Unless it's not. Why are you guys here? Regardless. Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Popcast. Whenever you're listening to this, whether it be live or VOD, Twitch or YouTube, while you're watching your NCAA bracket get busted, downloading the new season of Fortnite, bringing your disbanded team back from the dead after only being disbanded for 1 week because Luti got announced yesterday. Whatever it is that you're doing right now, I appreciate you taking your time out of your day to listen to this. Unless I'm not. News for this week. Low Ink is this weekend. That's right. It's Low Ink week. Always exciting. Always an exciting week because all of you morons wait till this week to register your teams, which means we as staff are going to spend every single day verifying each and every single one of you. We're going to be DMing a lot of you because there is a lowering of the skill bar to some extent. So some people might not make it this time around. And they're going to be like, what the heck? Did you ban me? But you got to ban these other guys too. And all this other stuff. A lot of you going to get some DMs from me. Probably today. Because I've been verifying teams leading up to this point. 57 teams signed up already as of today. That is a sign that we are going to have another huge 120, 130 team tournament. Usually when there's about this many on Monday, that means we get a ton more over the course of the week. It usually doubles that and then some. So 57 for Monday is if you want that, if you were a big fan of that 4-group thing, borderline. Looking at how many teams we got today, borderline we might get there. And you're likely not a big fan of it, so who knows. Let's see. Once again, as I've said for 2 weeks leading up to this, and this will be my 3rd straight week, so you have no right to complain. Registration ends on Friday, I believe at 8 o'clock Eastern time. So do not be that guy. Do not be that guy. Saturday in the help desk. I can't register. The registration's closed, but I always register Saturday at the last minute, so you guys have no time to verify us. So what? I don't understand. Why can't I register? Nobody told me. No. I told you right here, because I know everybody that plays in Low Ink listens to the Popcast in one way or another. I know you do. So spread the word. Get that information out. Do not be that guy. Register now. Do it. Or don't, because you've won Low Ink in the past, like a couple of people in chat have. Now, I think I'm just getting into a trend of where I do my previews for Low Ink on Thursdays now. I've done it the past 2 months on Thursday, and that's just because there's always been something on Monday to where I didn't want to like do the preview and talk about other stuff as well. That's the case again this month, but I'm finding it's just easier and more enjoyable for me to just spend like Tuesday and Wednesday writing out those things, and it's easier to do a preview because we have a better idea of who plays in this, rather than just me assuming on Monday that certain teams are going to play, and then just talking about them for no reason because they actually don't end up signing up. So look for a second episode of the Popcast coming out later this week on Thursday, previewing Low Ink and all the fun times that are going to be had with that. Other tournaments coming up of interest to the typical viewer of the Popcast. Minnow Cup is going to be next Saturday, April the 3rd. This is, I guess, season 2 is the start of this, as they're going back to Tower Control, which was the first tournament mode they did in their first ever tournament. That is going to be back on Saturday as opposed to the Sunday that it was on last time. So be looking out for that. Little Squid League is the Saturday after that, Saturday the 10th, and 7 teams have already signed up for that one. So nice to see a tournament that is about a couple of weeks out already getting some love. It'd be cool to see Little Squid League grow every single month. Like every single month they break a new record for teams that play in it. There's no reason why it shouldn't in my opinion. I think the tournament gets better every single month. I feel like the stream, the commentary gets better every single month. And there's a ton of teams that need Little Squid League. I mean, it's the lowest of low-level skill cap tournaments, and it appears to be run really well. So I feel like there's a good chunk of teams that play in low ink that don't know LSL exists and would be pleasantly surprised to find out that it does exist. So let's keep the LSL hype going, and I'm glad that they're now consistently doing it on Saturdays instead of constantly being kicked off to Sunday. So maybe that alone will help out with it. One other tournament that I just found out about, the Launch Point Draft Cup. The Launch Point Draft Cup is coming back on Sunday, April the 4th. Fine. A Sunday tournament for a draft cup. I like that. I would prefer that Saturdays be reserved for the consistent name brand tournaments, and Sunday be for like the I don't want to call it a side event, but it's not a team tournament. It's a draft cup. I am assuming this draft cup is going to be way better than the first one, because the Launch Point TOs actually pay attention to feedback and realize, oh, hey, maybe a 8-hour tournament isn't what people want. So I'm assuming they're going to find ways to make it more sensible to everybody. Unlike what other organizations that don't listen. Anyways, that is going to be April the 4th. I don't know when registration for that closes. StanTTV_ just said signups close March 31st. So there you go. You have until March 31st to register for this. I will be covering it to some extent. And I guess I've gotten to this point to where I have by making fun of your stupid team names that you come up with, I'm also encouraged you. It's kind of like a negative side effect. Reverse psychology, maybe. So try not to make your team names too dumb. Maybe I should just focus on the good ones instead of the absolutely horrible ones. But like reaction videos, sometimes the horrible ones are just the ones that get the most attention. Today, we're going to be discussing SAC finals, the season as a whole, and who better to do that than the same person we brought in when SAC was announced that their season was going to happen. We interviewed Yeet many episodes ago, and now that the season is ended, we're bringing Yeet back to the Popcast to get his thoughts on the season ending and a bunch of other stuff, because Yeet is a good person with a lot of good information to share on many things. Unless he's not. I don't know, we'll find out. But first, it's finally here! It's back! Luti has returned from the grave. I said last week that it was dead and it was not coming back. It had been 5 months since they tweeted out soon. Well, it turns out soon actually means 6 months. Fair enough. That, we all interpret things a little bit differently. Soon is vague, and now we know what soon means. It means 6 months. Now, it makes sense that Luti is coming back, because my assumption is they wanted SAC to get out of the way so that they weren't like running all of these same like leagues at the same time. And I don't think it's a coincidence at all that Luti got announced literally the day after SAC finals. I don't have like insider information to confirm that that's the reason, but logic would tell you that SAC ending is what Luti was waiting for to make their announcement. They said sign up starts today. I'm going to sign my team up for it because we love Luti. Why wouldn't you love Luti? Well, let me just go off with this. Let me start off with this. The assumption that a good chunk of you have no idea what Luti is. And it's totally understandable and should be expected that a good chunk of the community has no idea what Luti is, because it's been a year since we last got a Luti div handed out, and we do everything low ink rules, div 4 and below, and we got this question so many times over the course of the past 12 months. How do I get my Luti div? What is Luti? And we laughed at that person because how could you not know what Luti is? But in reality, of course they would know what Luti is. It shouldn't come to a surprise at this point. So for those of you watching this and you have no idea what Luti is, you haven't been listening to a lot of episodes of the Popcast, because I ran about it on a weekly basis almost. Let me give you just a brief overview of why it is awesome and why you should play in the tournament Luti. First off, about 200 plus teams are going to sign up for this. Maybe more this time around. Who knows? It'd be interesting to see how many teams sign up for this tournament. I'm assuming this is going to be the biggest one. Maybe there'll be more than Div X plus through 8. Maybe we'll get 9 and 10 this time around. How awesome would that be? You are placed into groups based off of your skill level, which is based off of your results that you have in tournaments, and also how many teams sign up for the tournament in general, but we'll get to that later. So in theory, it is a league where you play against teams that are always close, or at least somewhat speculated to be close, to your personal skill level. So in theory, you are going to be in a dogfight every single week that you play in this. That is awesome and is a lot of fun to play in. It's the closest thing we have to a professional Splatoon league, and it involves the entire community. Awesome thing. It's the most iconic tournament series that we have in this community. You could say Low Ink is, because Low Ink is the longest running monthly tournament that gets 100 plus teams. But you know what? You would have to imagine without Luti, we don't have a lot of these other tournaments, and we probably don't have a lot of these lower end skill level tournaments, because so many people have used Luti as the measuring stick to determine who is and isn't eligible for some of these tournaments. It's ridiculous we still do that, but here we are. It creates a lot of great rivalries. Some of the first scrim contacts we ever had was from the first time we played in Luti. This is going to be our 5th Luti season as a team. That is insane. Some of you can't even play 1 week of Luti. This will be our 5th one. That's weird to think about. And a lot of the teams that we made connections with early were teams that we played in Luti that we never heard of. And we're like, hey, this set was pretty close. We should scrim each other. And that's where a lot of these good connections are made through Luti. And the strategy that goes into this is a lot of fun. You find out who your opponent is. You play one opponent per week. And most of your matches are going to be on like a Thursday or Friday or over the weekend. If you're a noob, you'll play your tournament. You'll find you'll play your match on a Tuesday or Wednesday when you have like no time to do research. So you should come in Monday. You should find out who your opponent is, and you should start looking for VODs of your opponent, and you should start coming up with a game plan. All right, here's what our lineup's going to be against these guys. Here's what the weapons they're going to likely do. Here's where their position is going to be. Here's what we should do to try to counter what they do. Like, there's an extra level of depth of strategy that comes in playing in each Luti match that you can't pull off to the same extent in like a weekly tournament. For most tournaments, yeah, you play a team you're familiar with, you're like, okay, we know what they're going to do, but it also comes down to the fact of like, okay, what are the 3 maps in this best of 3 set that we're playing against these guys? Do they favor them more than us? Or it might just come down to, in a weekly tournament, you might just play a team that you're like, I have no idea who any of these guys are. And we're just going to come up with a game plan in the middle of the set that we're playing against them. So that's the advantage of playing in something like Luti, is there's just an extra level of depth of strategy. I'm going to say this a lot over the course of the day. When skill level is equal between two teams, strategy is always the difference maker. Always the difference maker. So please, if you're playing in this tournament, think a little bit smarter. Do a little bit more research on your opponent. And try not to stream your scrims for the next month. That's kind of like giving away. I was surprised at how many teams last season that we played against just flat out streamed their scrims with VC on, basically giving the world their game plan that they were going to use against us. And I'm just sitting here watching it, eating popcorn like, okay, that's what your comp's going to be in game 3 against us? Cool. Just note that down. So try to find more information on your opponent and try not to leak out too much stupid information about yourself. Because a lot of you shot yourselves in the foot last season. I feel like you're going to do it again this time around. But Luti's fun. The tournament is fun. You know what's not fun about Luti, though? Why are you guys excited that Luti is back? Is it because it's a fun tournament? Let me ask you this. Why should you be excited that Luti is back? It is because of the tournament itself. But you know why you are excited? It's because you guys are so thirsty to get a div. You want a number next to your name so bad that when Luti got announced, the first thing you were thinking of is, finally, this is my chance to prove that I'm too good for low ink, even though I play in it every single month. Judgment Day is coming, and I promise you, so many of you are not going to be happy with what you see when you finally realize that you are not the Div 3 monster you think you are. Oh my goodness, it is coming, and I am so excited for it. And a lot of you guys are not going to be, I promise you. This is I played football in high school all 4 years. Loved it. Fun time. At the beginning of each year, you get a lot of new guys that come out. Never played football before, but they realize playing football in high school gets you some clout. We didn't use the word clout back in the day, but I guess that is relevant now. And you go through your off-season workouts, and you're cool, and you're building up muscle, and you're getting some, you get to walk around school and be like, hey, I'm going to be playing football next year. And then that first day of spring practice comes in. When you put on the helmet and the pads and you start hitting each other, all of a sudden, a lot of people start saying, oh, this isn't so fun. This hurts. This isn't a lot of fun, and I'm not going to do it. This Luti coming back after a year is the equivalent of us finally putting on the pads and going and hitting each other. And a lot of you are going to realize real quick that it's not as much fun as you thought it was going to be. Now, a lot of people are going to be totally fine. A good chunk of people are going to be satisfied with what div they get because they don't freaking care, and they never did. I'm talking about teams that that are more progressive in their thinking. They didn't really compare themselves. Oh, what div might I be? And they're like, oh, well, here's my results against teams around our skill level. What are ways that we can do to get better than the teams that keep beating us, that keep gatekeeping us from doing better in tournaments? Teams that are looking for scrims at like the alpha, the beta bracket level. You guys laugh at teams that do that. I laugh at teams that ask for scrim at Div 3 plus because that makes no sense. What is Div 3? You're talking to teams that are Div 3. Half of them have disbanded, and the other half are on completely different teams now. So are there any Div 3 teams that still legit exist? I don't know. I'd have to go back and look at that. But, I mean, you're asking for a Div 3 plus scrim. Who are you talking to? That makes no sense. The people that have always been thinking in that way for like the past 6 or 7 months or so, they're going to be fine. They're going to be like, oh, I'm Div 5? Okay, cool. That's cool to know that this is finally cool to know where I'm at. So that I can start looking for other people. And it's going to be cool to know who else is around your skill level. Be like, okay, these are the teams I should be scrimming. These are the teams that are above us that I should be trying to ask to scrim so that we can play against them and we can improve to get a little bit better. But the few of you still ask for scrims to certain div levels. Put div estimates in your team Twitter bios. Who in your free agent posts will put a div that you think your team was, the team that you created and disbanded after 2 weeks. Well, we played at a Div 2 level. Bruh, you made Gamma Bracket and Low Ink. The hell are you talking about? So many of those people are in for a rude awakening when they realize the truth. Oh, we're a Div 3 team and we're playing in Low Ink because Low Ink staff is too dumb to realize we're really good at this tournament, even though we barely qualify for Sunday. Woo, boy. Woo, boy. It sucks that this is what the conversation has to be right now. It really sucks. And it's not Luti's fault. It's your fault. We put too much stock into Luti divs. And here's the problem. Luti divs are great. Using Luti divs as a way to judge the whole community, it's the best thing we have right now. I understand that. It's the best thing we have for judging the entire community top to bottom. The Western top 60 is a good step in the right direction. The problem is it only caters to the top 60 teams in the West, which alienates about another 200 to 300 teams that can't make the top 60, and so they don't really know where they stand. But I feel like the top 60 is a good step in the right direction. Luti, though, covers everything top to bottom. So that makes more sense for it to be like that. The problem, though, is that those divs stop being relevant after week 5. After week 5 of Luti, we have a much better sense of like, okay, this team is too good for the div that they got placed in. And that team, okay, those guys got overhyped. They should actually be bumped down a division. But none of those changes happen for a year. So after 1 month, why are we still using these things? They're not relevant anymore. The monthly thing, it's in the name. Monthly top 60. It gets updated monthly. Even though they get released like way late into the next month from the previous month, and it doesn't really hold any value anymore because when the monthly rankings get released, they're already outdated. But still, that's the problem here. And the whole div thing has just made this community worse. And again, it's not Luti's fault. It's seeding for their tournament. But it's how we perceive these divs and take them way farther than what they need to be. Low Ink shares some blame with that. SAC shares some blame with that. Because we use Luti divs as the standard for who should be allowed and who doesn't. SAC couldn't do that this year, though, and I'll talk with Yeet about this in a second. But yes, SAC couldn't do that this year because Luti divs were so out of whack at the time SAC started that SAC basically had to determine who was Div 3 in their minds and who was Div 2. And that was a little bit of an issue of why that I didn't talk about this last week, why SAC and Low Ink were so close to skill level, is that we didn't know who the true 24 teams that are Div 3. In theory, 24 teams should be eligible for SAC and not Low Ink, and we couldn't determine who those 24 teams specifically were, and that's why there's so much close of a skill gap between SAC and Low Ink than there was in the past. So, but to SAC's credit, I feel like they did a really good job. I feel like Low Ink is doing a great job as well, is determining on our own who should and shouldn't be. But the fact that we still have in our rules Div 4 and below, and it's difficult to come off with like a better cutoff or a better term to describe like who should and shouldn't be allowed in. So I guess that makes sense, but still, we have to change that as a community. Otherwise, these things are just like, this is just going to be worse. And I'm happy and sad Luti is coming back. I'm sad because I know everything we've worked towards, I've been preaching to you guys for about, 5-6 months now, the negative effects of using Luti diffs, and it's all just going to come back. It's all just going to get thrown out the window. It's, oh, okay, I got what I want to get. It's like getting somebody, stop doing something, like quit punching themselves in the face, and you're like, hey, here's the negative side effects of punching yourself in the face. And they're like, okay, yeah, I get that. And then they finally get punched in the face again, and they're like, oh, I like this. Let's keep doing this. And it's like, no. So please, sign up. Sign up for Lowing. Sign up for Luti. You're going to enjoy it if you play it. A lot of you are going to disband as soon as you get your div. A lot of you are going to disband as soon as you lose week 1. Because here's what's going to happen. A lot of you are not going to get the div that you want. And you are going to publicly complain in their, like they make a channel and was like, here's where you can complain. That's a trap. Do not complain in that. Because what happens is, everyone in this community on Sunday, if they get released on a Sunday, everyone in the community is going to just watch that channel with popcorn ready for you to make an ass out of yourself, complaining about your team. And then you go on and you say, well, I'm just going to show you, we're going to win our div and prove you wrong. All of those teams never do. You know what happens? They lose week 1 and then they get embarrassed and they disband. Every single time. Every single time. I've said this before. In my group last season, 3 out of the 6 teams complained in the help desk about the fact that they were Div 4 and not Div 3. And they all said, we're going to win this tournament. It's not even going to be close. We beat all 3 of those teams, all 3 of them in our group, and none of them made playoffs. Not one of them even came close to making playoffs. It was us and Day Old Sushi. How about that? The 2 teams with the old 30-year-old players on their team knew to just keep their head down and play the matches instead of beating their chest before they even started. Talk is cheap. Talk is real cheap, and everybody can afford it. It doesn't really mean anything, though. I want you guys to remember this. Before divs come out, it's all based on how many teams sign up. You might be a Div 3 team, but all those people that came on Twitter yesterday and were saying, oh, I'm going to form a pickup. I'm going to come back to this community. When all those people come back, that pushes everybody down 1 spot to make room for them. If FT Win decides to play, I doubt they would. There's no benefit for them to do. They have nothing to prove by doing it, but they do. That pushes everybody down 1. We're playing musical chairs right now. And the question is, all of you want to know if you're Div 3 or not. There are 24 chairs for Div 3 and 100 people playing musical chairs right now. And so many of you think you have a seat guaranteed for you. Oh my gosh. Judgment Day is coming. And I hate to be this negative, but I'm pissed off because it's your fault. It's your fault that you put so much stock into Luti divs. And it's going to come back to bite you guys in a couple of weeks. Don't go crying in help desk. Don't go on Twitter and say that you were better than you actually were. You're not. It is time you realize that. Get better. Because the teams that don't care about their div, they're going to get a lot better. They're going to get the most out of this Luti season. I promise you. They're not going to disband. And they are going to be the ones that we're going to talk about a lot in this upcoming season. To close out my rant on something more positive and less yelly, since I'm excited about Luti, and this is a podcast featured around the mindset of focusing on low-level competitive community stuff, here's what I'm going to do. During the Luti season, I am going to do an extra episode of the Popcast per week. I don't know when, maybe set on Tuesdays or what, maybe not Tuesdays, that's too close to Monday. But Mondays are always going to be the ranty episodes, the tournament recap episodes, the interview episodes, things like that. I'll do a second episode per week covering Div 4 through Div 8, the weekly recap of what happened in Luti from the previous week. We're going to do that for the entire season, every single match, every single div from 4 to 8, everything in the low ink skill range. So there you go. If you're not Div 3, congratulations. I'm going to help get you some more clout if you do well. Now, a lot of you are going to do really bad in Luti. A lot of you are going to disband because of Luti. By the way, Luti is not a team killer. If your team disbands because of Luti, breaking news, you never had a team to begin with. You just had a project that didn't... You just had like a really long project that you didn't realize wasn't a team. So we're going to do more coverage for Luti and help it out. So please, I love Luti, sign up for it. But don't get butthurt when you find out that you're not as good as you actually are. End of rant. Hoi. If I'm not happy with my Luti div, I'll simply have to win the season. Yeah, I mean that. In theory, that's the good. That is the good way to approach it. And teams have done that in the past. Div 5 last season was Squid Vibes, and I think a lot of us knew Squid Vibes was not a Div 5 team, and they went out and proved it. They won the whole div, seemingly with little to no thought behind it at all. I mean, they just flat out took that div as they should have. My problem is with teams that come out initially and just say right off the bat that they're we're just gonna walk away with this season because the seeding council got us wrong. Like, no, I don't know. Kind of setting yourself up for failure there. Okay, moving on to SAC stuff. First off, congratulations to Xanadu for winning the entire SAC finals. Is that something that's fun? Is that a fun phrase to have come out of my mouth? No, it sucks. It sucks. But you know what? Credit where credit is due. Xanadu was the true champion from the start of this season to the end of this season. I think it makes a great story that they disbanded and they decided to stay together to end out this season. So it's good. If some anime protagonist vibes there, and they got to beat us. The team that they've played 12 times in tournaments. We're the last team that they got to beat. It sucks to be on the losing end for that, but I understand the significance for them, knowing where they were when we first played them back in like 2019 in low ink to where they've gone to now. And it sucks that they're disbanding because I want another shot at them. But I think this is, if you're going to go out, winning SAC in the fashion that they did is a really fun way, a really poetic way for them to go out in this tournament here. I think adding Neo from Xylo was, I think that put them over the top. Honestly, I feel like that was the missing piece they needed. A lot of these, like if you follow professional sports, a lot of the times in the middle of the season, the trade deadline ends and you can't trade players anymore. This is like the equivalent of adding that missing piece to your NBA basketball team. Like you needed a point guard and you have like everything else you need. You just needed a point guard. Xanadu went out and got their point guard that they needed, their all-star point guard, and that just put them too far above everybody else to catch up with them. I felt like Destiny Troops was the only team that understood how to play against Xanadu. And I felt like we were the ones who gave them the best fight on Saturday. But even with our game plan that we had against them and the strategy that we developed just for them, they overcame every weakness. We thought there was no way they could win on hotel zones. They KO'd us there. We felt like we figured out how to beat the X-Plosh we knew they were going to bring on Mako Mart. They beat us there. We felt like we knew they hated Rainmaker main stage, and we felt like if we came down to it, we were going to pick that. And we hated it too, but we practiced Rainmaker main stage exclusively so that we could get better at it and try to beat them on that, knowing they were going to be uncomfortable there. They beat us there too. So every punch we threw at them, they found a way to block it. So that's credit to them. I mean, they're just no weaknesses. Well, they did have weaknesses, but they figured out how to solve their weaknesses. I've heard some of you, like Evie, I'll call you out. You've said many times that you cannot play on Albacore Hotel. So I played you. What did we do? We picked Albacore Hotel. And to your credit, it looked like you were working on solving, you were working on improving that weakness instead of just being like, well, we can't beat this. Let's forget that. Well, if we're in a counterpick society, I'm just going to use that against you the entire time. We're going to try, if you're right-handed, we're going to try to make you play left-handed. And Xanadu just said, hey, we can use both hands, bro. We're ambidextrous, or I know I just butchered that word, whatever that is supposed to be. But shout out to, congratulations to Xanadu once again for winning the whole season. Just Destiny Troops' perspective from playing in the tournament. Am I happy we made second place? Yes. Yeah. We were satisfied with where we finished. I think if we had lost grand finals from the winner's side, like if Xanadu had come from the losers bracket and they beat us, I think we wouldn't have felt good about that. But I think losing round one of winners and then having to win 4 straight matches in losers against the best teams in SAC, a couple of them going to a decisive game 5, and then getting to losers bracket, I think that kind of separated things a little bit. I think that kind of changed our mindset of it. We went into the Xanadu set kind of, we didn't have much left in the tank, and I was glad Haya was available to come in. I was just like, dude, just start rotating us out, get us some subs here. I still feel like even if we were fresh, Xanadu's the better team. We would have approached them with the same game plan, and they were obviously ready for the game plan that we had for them. For the other teams, though, I wonder if they, we talk about Luti. We approached this tournament like it was Luti. We developed game plans for every team, and I feel like a lot of these other teams didn't really do that. Like we knew what the counter picks were going to be before teams even made them against us. There was one team specifically, like we know they counterpick one map every single time. And when we beat them, I said, hey, don't even worry about it. I just put it up because I was hosting. I just put it up, and they picked the map, and I got it right. We knew what everyone's comps were going to be. And I know teams didn't do this level of preparation because so many of them made illegal counter picks without realizing it. 4 times a team made a counter pick against my team that was illegal because they either won on that map or mode earlier in the set. One team, it came down, I'm not going to say who, but it came down to a game 5, and they had the pick. Their first pick was tower control. I said, you already won on that in game 3, so you can't pick that again. And they're like, oh, okay. Let's do Rainmaker. Like, you won on that in game 1, dummy. It's like, with that made me realize, okay, nobody paid attention. Like, nobody actually did homework for this tournament. Nobody actually approached this with the mindset of trying to win this tournament, except for Xanadu. And us, honestly, I feel like. 4 times somebody tried an illegal counterpick against us. Ridiculous. And again, we talk about Luti. When skill levels equal, strategy makes the difference. That's the same case here. I've always said, I felt like the top 6 was right with each other, and that the team that just had the better game plan for each individual team was going to come out on top. And I feel like our game plan, we went 6-0 in our counter picks in losers bracket. Every counter pick we made was the right one, and it worked out in our favor. Humble brag, I guess. But take that as kind of a warning for Luti. Strategize. Look into your opponents. Figure out what they want to do. Figure out how to make them uncomfortable. And use that to your advantage. It works out for you. But once again, I'm proud of old Destiny troops. We're done with SAC. I don't know if we're banned or not. I would assume we're banned. Finished 2nd place in the season. If they let us back in, we're not coming back. We are moving on to Midway. Well, actually, we're moving on to Luti and Midway, I guess. So, a lot of fun things going on there. Oh, yes. Also, on Crack. Oh, yeah. Exotic disbanded yesterday as well. So, 3 teams from this original top 8 disbanded, which sucks. I will say, though, I'm happy Avalanche is still a thing. I'm happy Seaboys is still a thing. We've had really good sets of those 2 teams over the course of this season. And it'd be cool to see more sets against those guys in the future. I know Avalanche has a player named Storm that didn't play in SAC. So they'll probably be a little bit tougher the next time we face them. And Seaboys also had the Tetra player named Toya. Seaboys also has Toya. So like both those teams had players that weren't allowed in SAC. That will be playing on them. That can now actually play with them on their normal rosters and tournaments. In the that they play in the future. Another team they can play against is Stargaze. Are you excited to be playing Avalanche and Seaboys and Destiny troops now that they're not doing SAC anymore?
Wait, I'm a little lost.
What are you lost about? You're live on the Popcast.
Oh my god, already?
Yeah.
Jeez, man.
Yeah.
You didn't give me like any heads up. I'm like watching it, and then all of a sudden you pop in the voice chat, and I have no idea what's going on.
Okay, so
like I'm hearing what you're saying now.
The cycle that I've been trying to get into, and I forgot to tell you this, in my wife, is I've tried to have my wife hop in first and be like, hey, he's just gonna hop in and go. So so you didn't get any heads up. That's on me.
No, not at all.
that's on me. But here we go. Welcome into the Popcast. Captain of Stargaze, TO for Midway SAC. He's probably commentated some of your sets in Minnow Cup and Low Ink. It is the one and only Yeet. How you doing today, Yeet?
I'm doing good. Thank you for the proper introduction.
Now, this is I got to be honest, Yeet. This is actually a trap. I'm sorry. I know you're the one behind the SAC account, the Twitter account. So my question to you is, what's wrong with you?
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Do you? Because there's like 50 tweets that we could go through right now.
Am I gonna get like splat safety for this, or like what's going on?
No, I don't think there's a rule against splat safety about being a jackass. But
all right, look, it wasn't me. I swear, you can go back, watch the VOD, and then somebody said Popgun is old. I swear it was somebody on your own team.
It's
So that's their fault.
Oh, you were calling out Haya now. Haya is the only one who would stoop to that level. So I guess that's fair. That's fair. How was TOing SAC this season?
Well, it was my first season of TOing, obviously. I mean, I had a lot of fun going through it because it's kind of just all of my season 2 memories just kind of coming back here. Um, TOing it, I know the first few ones were like a little bit difficult, but the last 2 tournaments I think went really well, and especially the finals. I had a lot of fun, especially with the pregame show and everything that we were doing there.
Yeah, you guys do a lot of production stuff that a lot of other tournaments don't do. Like you didn't do a weekly podcast, but it seemed like a bi-weekly, like, or every other tournament you guys did a podcast. You did the pregame show. What was it like doing things like that? And do you think like what if Low Ink did something like that? Do you think it would benefit from like a something in between each set or something like that?
I don't know about in between each set, but like a week before, maybe like a rundown of kind of like what happened last time, teams that have already signed up or something like that. That might work out for Low Ink if they really want. Like, I mean, you've already hit 100 signups. Maybe they can try to hit 200 or something like that. I don't know. It's all just about like getting those team names out there, getting people hyped up for that next tournament, and it's a lot of fun to take part in too.
No, not like a Popcast, not a Low Ink Popcast, like an IPL podcast or something like that. I really enjoyed the SAC. It's cool to hear from the TO's perspective over the course of the season, like their thoughts on how teams are doing or how like things are kind of surprising to them. And I think that kind of humanizes you guys a little bit because a lot of times TOs just don't get respect and they're just seen as like somebody behind somebody on a keyboard telling them no to their dumb questions. So I think like that podcast thing made you guys more relatable to the typical player. I mean, that's just my opinion. I thought that's what I kind of enjoyed about it. Give me your best help desk story.
So I wasn't really too much like super involved in help desk, and I know other staff were, and I appreciate their help with that. But you sent me that question a little bit earlier, and I just kind of went back and went through help desk, and I think probably the funniest story that I have from that is just Exotic not saying anything to like our multiple pings, and then saying that the time that we asked them, like, so like we put out like a when to meet chart, and they were the only, I think they were the only team that didn't do it, and they were the only team that were EU. And I think we had them like pinged like 3 or 4 times, and I even like pinged one of them in a separate server, and they were like, oh yeah, and give me the role and stuff, and they still didn't fill it out. And they said something like 5 p.m. start time isn't EU friendly, and I'm like, well, it wouldn't be a 5 p.m. start time if you filled it out. But you know, I think that's it.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's clearly frustrating because like it was obvious to us you guys did everything you possibly could, and it's still. I mean, there were teams that like I saw Ducky pinging like Friday teams like, hey, you still haven't sent me any clips for that video you guys made. So yeah, that's, I don't know, that's, yeah, team players are stupid, I guess.
It happens.
Initial thoughts on the season as a whole.
I thought this was more of a short and sweet SAC season. I understand it being like the 6 whole tournaments. You have the 4 standard season tournaments. You have our All-Star game, and then you have the finals. I kind of like the longer seasons, but I understand coming from like the perspective of, you know, that having a longer season means, you know, you still have to like keep working. All these teams have to come back again and again and again. and I think having it with the 4 tournaments worked out really well. Um, I really liked how finals played out. It seemed like I feel like the matchups were pretty even. Um, I have actually the season 3 and the season 2 finals brackets shown up here, and there's a lot of similarities. Xanadu this season, they just go through winners bracket and they just kind of stay there, and then the 2-1 and final set play. It was the same thing for Elmatic last season too. So you can kind of draw a few similarities, and then you have like the Destiny troops going out round 1 and then going through the entirety of losers bracket to make it to grands. It was kind of almost like Stargaze's run, except we got beat in losers finals. And actually, a lot of the matchup scores were kind of similar too. So it was really fun to watch. We actually had a staff VC going the entire time, and I think it was the most invested in a tournament I've ever been. So I had a lot of fun watching it. I had a lot of fun just kind of producing all of this social media stuff, some really dumb tweets, some good tweets, mostly cringe ones. But I'm excited for next season already.
Well, you mentioned last season as top 8. Yeah, that was. I mean, there were some teams that were last season that were, like really good compared to other teams in the top 8. Like I remember it was Arctic Moon that was untouchable, and then it became Narwhal Gaming that was untouchable, and then like Illmatic finally took it over at the end of the season. And obviously Stargate, yeah, I remember you guys finished like third in that 8, and you guys probably
Yeah.
grew the most over the course of that season. But you talk about the top 8 being close. The teams that made top 8 this season, it was based on points, whereas last season it was based on the eyeball test. And I was thinking about that myself. If you just did the eyeball test this season, the top 8 probably wouldn't be any different. Like would you agree with that? It'd still probably be the same 8 teams.
Yeah, I think it would be the same 8 teams, I think for the most part. Um I think they would definitely be different seeding this season.
Yeah.
Just because it would be through that whole like ranking system and stuff like that. But I would definitely agree with that statement.
Um and yeah, only 4 tournaments. Was it 8 or 6 last season?
It
I felt
was
like it was 8. Yeah, 8, not
eight
including the
tournaments.
All-Star in the
Yeah,
final. Yeah,
so
that's
10 total tournaments that TOs had to run last season.
that's
And that was like when there was like a ton of stuff going on behind the scenes that only I learned until now. Like I think Nathan, who used to run SAC, kind of like left somewhere in the middle,
yeah.
and they never really kept staff up to date, so they just kind of had to scramble for stuff. But I have to give them credit; they did do a really good job, even with all of that kind of holding them back.
Well, what it seemed like from our perspective, and I guess you would have been like when you and me were playing in that, it seemed like from our perspective that happened during the All Star break. And All Star break took like a month for the All Star tournament to happen because, like, yeah, the head TO just vanished and then just dumped this entire. Like, here's the All Star and 4 tournaments and finals. You guys just figure it out on your own. But those guys that got dumped on it, though, you're the ones who ran this season, and yeah, it seemed like this season was the smoothest of all of them, at least from a player's perspective, and it's probably because the people in the the TOs had a bit of a trial by fire at the end of last season, and now you guys know what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I got to give props definitely to Nick and J-Man and Smash and Roundy and everybody that's just helping out around in SAC that made it run like it did this season. I'm hoping that it'll run even better next season too.
How did staff feel about the All Star tournament?
Um, I don't think I watched too much of the All Star tournament. I think I had something going on that day. but wasn't there was like one team that was like really good or something like that,
Well,
right?
yeah, there was one team that didn't lose a single game. I was just more so thinking
Yeah.
like how like players were selected, how the tournament actually went. Because in the past it's been kind of weird how they've done, because like the formula for how you guys have done the All Star has always changed. I was just curious if you felt like the formula you guys had this month or this season was something you really liked and just want to stick to that going forward, or if they're like, there's some things we want to tweak.
I don't know exactly what we want to change about it, and that'll probably come up when we start like briefing for next season, whenever that's going to start. Um, but like I feel like the All-Star game is kind of it's a good concept, but it's hard to follow through with sometimes. Like people might sign up for it and then kind of just have to ditch. Some
No.
people just won't be in the Discord and they'll just be gone from the face of the earth for like a week or so. Um, but I mean, I think what we had this season worked out fairly well. So we might keep something similar to next season, only changing it to make it just run a little bit more efficiently.
So everyone's asking about next season, and you just said you don't know when that's going to be. I guess my question is it going to be a year from now, or do you think it's going to be more on like, is the idea for it to be more of on a rotation basis for like Midway does their thing and then SAC and then Midway?
Yeah, I feel it's going to be something more like that. I don't know exactly when everything's going to happen, but
Right.
I think everybody saw Midway get announced during the SAC finals, and we do share a lot of staff, so it would make a lot of sense to kind of to rotate. So, you know, all of these teams that are coming from SAC, all these graduates that we have, teams that might have missed that top cut. Um, you know, I would definitely encourage everyone to play in Midway because you lose nothing by playing in it, and even those teams that can kind of take a Midway, we have like a sponsor this season and everything, and who has a connection to like teams like FT Win and getting a coaching session from them and just kind of like all this kind of stuff that we have planned for this season too. It's going to be a lot of fun.
One thing I forgot to ask about, and you just mentioned the graduates for this season. That's there hasn't been like a public official statement, and I'm not going to ask you one like break any news right here now, but it's been said that the top 8 this season doesn't automatically mean you'll be banned from SAC next season. Is that true? Is there like still some things in the works with that, or like do you expect some teams from the top 8 to come back next season?
I mean, I think not every team that's in the top 8, or at least this is me talking, not
Right.
me as somebody who works for SAC.
Right.
I think I think what the basis is like the top 3 teams I think can't might not come back. But I think teams underneath it might be able to, just depending on results then. All of that kind of stuff. I mean, it's gonna be a while until the next SAC. I don't know if I can give an exact estimate, but like maybe July or August or September even. I don't really know. Again, this is just me talking, not as a TO, but I think these teams that are like kind of placing higher in SAC events, I think they might even just be better by that time that the next SAC kind of rears its head around. So we might just see some completely different teams. We might see some of the same teams that were in this top 8 come back, try to reclaim what they wanted this season. But I mean, it's just all up in the air right now.
Initial thoughts on Luti coming back?
Um, I'm really excited for Luti coming back. I feel like I I do like the div system because it's so difficult to try to like look for scrims around your area, like you can't say how good you are because like I feel like if you're under that, if you're like a low ink team, it's much easier because you have like alpha bracket, beta bracket, gamma bracket. But once you get above that, like above the SAC level, there's just kind of like this. You don't really know where you stand, and it just really helps define that for a little while. And I think it just kind of helps a little bit because you do. Because I think you mentioned a little bit earlier the SAC staff kind of having to define that line, and it's so difficult to do that
Right.
when you don't have like all of these kinds of like references that you can have from like Luti and stuff and their placement in that. Because sure, you could have been like Div 2 last season or something like that, but you could have gone like 0-5, not won a single game or something like that, and like you could have even matchups with like low ink teams or something like that, just theoretically, and you could be allowed an SAC or something like that. It's just I think we're going to have the exception request system that we have for like Midway, and I think we had it for this season, so it can kind of help out those players that don't know if they're eligible or not. But going back to Luti though, I think it's just something. It's so strange thinking that it's like been an entire year since the last Luti was announced.
You're a Div 4 team. You know that, right?
Yeah, I know. I am Div 4. I am Div 4. And the divs from last year are so outdated, and I agree with you, like looking for scrims saying that you're like, oh, Div 3, Div 2 estimate. It's like I don't even know what Div 2 is anymore. You know, like
Right.
It'll just be nice to have these Luti people just like sit down and be like, all right, we're gonna get all this stuff straight.
Go ahead and plug some stuff for yourself. Is Stargaze series still going on?
Yeah, we just had to take a small break on that on last week. I had some stuff going on and just a little bit too stressful for me. So I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna not do it this time around. We're gonna wait for the next week, and April 2nd, I believe, is when the next one's going to be. I have to look through my calendar because I can't even like. Yeah, so April 2nd. So it's gonna be a little bit of a ways away from now, but I mean, if you want to sign up for it and you're in the Stargaze server, I usually update the link the Monday after a tournament. Just opening the next one if anybody wants early signups or something like that. Just kind of get that out of the way. I'm not exactly sure what we're gonna change about it. I think maps might become something like counter picks or something like that. Any feedback is really helpful. I think we have a feedback channel in there somewhere. I can also plug for Midway. Midway's coming back. All this stuff that I talked about earlier. It's just kind of like SAC for big boys and girls and our non-binary friends as well. It's a lot of fun to play in, and I know I keep saying everything's a lot of fun, but it just really is. I love doing all of this stuff. I love playing in Midway Season 1, Season 2, helping out with all of that, and we have our sponsor helping out, giving some teams incentives to play in it, and we're going to see a lot higher level of play, I think, come out of this as we try to patch up that mid going into top level wasteland, as I would call it.
Yeet, thank you for coming back onto the podcast. We'll have you again. We'll have you on again when the next SIC comes around. We'll keep getting some more information out of you. I appreciate you coming on and talking to us, answering some questions here.
No, thank you for having me on. It's great to be here, and just thank you again.
Well, now I didn't tell you how this interview was going to start. I'll tell you how it ends. I'm just going to awkwardly leave right now and keep going on the podcast like you don't even exist. So just
okay.
And that was Yeet, captain of Stargaze, TO for SAC, but also Stargaze series Midway. and commentates a lot of events as well. Really good conversation. I love talking to TOs. Love getting their perspective on things. It's important. I kind of mentioned this when he was talking about the podcast thing. It's important to kind of humanize these TOs because you just see them as a name in a Discord server that just keeps telling you, no, you can't do that stupid thing that you're asking me for, and then you don't realize these are people that are just volunteering their time to try to create something, as Yeet said multiple times, fun. And SAC was a lot of fun. I think a lot of people would agree with that. And Yeet, I think Yeet has a little too much fun with that SAC Twitter account. At my expense for a lot of times during the season. But hey, that comes with the territory. I guess I yeeted Yeet out of the Popcast, I guess. Hey, if you would like to be on the Popcast in any way, if you want to be the next Yeet who has have a good conversation and awkwardly just get bumped in and out of the interview, if you want to have your team on, I've had a lot of people reach out to me and say, hey, I would love to have my team on the Popcast. I keep note of that. That doesn't mean you're automatically going to get on. I do a little bit of research on your team, and I try to bring you on when right after you've done something kind of significant in a tournament, rather than just, so tell us about this 2-4 result you had in low ink that you were not really expecting to get. So nothing like that. So if you would like to be a part of this in any way, feel free to DM me, reach out to me, Twitter at Mr_Popgun, Discord Popgun, #5882, Twitch at Popgun25, YouTube at 25Popgun. Let's raid. I don't want to keep doing fish. Let's find somebody else that's doing Splatoon right now. Let's find somebody who've never raided before and just go raid them. Oh, JCam. JCam's raided me before, so let's go back to that. I can't raid myself. I do have a big ego, but not that big. JCam 394. Hey, thanks for watching. We'll come back on Thursday. We're going to be doing the low ink preview, and be telling you who's going to win this upcoming low ink. Spoiler alert, I'll tell you what team that is right now. It is going to be